Hey, what's up, friends? I'm Mike Bifulco, and this is Tiny Improvements. I heard a quote again today from Ira Glass, who is, of course, the creator of the super famous radio show and podcast, This American Life. In the quote, he talks about how something that they never tell beginners is that your tastes will always be way ahead of your ability to create.
I really wish somebody had told this to me, is that all of us who do creative work, we get into it, and we get into it because we have good taste. But it's like there's a gap that for the first couple of years that you're making stuff, what you're making isn't so good. Okay, it's not that great. It's trying to be good. It has ambition to be good, but it's not quite that good. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, your taste is still killer, and your taste is good enough that you can tell that what you're making is kind of a disappointment to you. You know what I mean? A lot of people never get past that phase. A lot of people at that point, they quit.
This is an all-time great quote, and it's a really valuable lesson. Usually when I hear this brought up, it's in the context of just keep creating, stick to it, get your reps in, and you'll get better. And look, that's true. I'm living proof of it. It's valuable information and it's useful to know. But what I never hear people talk about is the other factor in this equation, your tastes. Maybe a good metaphor for this is to think of this as a big funnel. The more that you develop your appreciation for what's possible in your creative path of choice, the bigger the top of that funnel is. The bottom of the funnel, then, that's your output. You've spent time developing your tastes for what you want to do, understanding that it's something that's possible for you to do, and probably following and meeting people in the field that you look up to. This might come in the form of talented designers, or if you're a musician, maybe a great jazz player, a great chef, a writer, something like that, whatever your thing is. And so you've collected all the knowledge of, hey, this is what I think the best version of this thing looks like from a broad array of influences. That's the collection of things that you have to draw from when you're creating. The bigger that funnel, the more you have to pull from. One of the things I've come to believe is it's more than just the reps. Don't get me wrong, getting in the reps is really important. You do really still need to do the work to get better at it. This is the most common advice that I think you'll hear, but having more to draw from gives you a larger frame of reference for when you're creating. There's a lot of ways to do this, and it probably varies a lot depending on what you're doing. Personally, I publish a lot of stuff on the internet about building software and trying to get developers to adopt a designer's mindset in their work. So, for me, this means I've spent loads of time researching and learning design fundamentals and trying to understand what makes good design good. I've also followed tons of designers on YouTube and on Instagram and on LinkedIn and on Threads, and I listen to podcasts from creatives who I think have interesting ideas. As a consequence of this, I spend lots of time thinking about the design of apps that I use every day, and I find it helpful to try to understand why they're designed the way that they are. Software engineers can get really wrapped around the axle about hard computer science problems, which is really fun to learn. Don't get me wrong, it will come in handy at some point in your life to know how to do a merge sort. If you're someone who's interested in building a startup, or you're working on an indie hacker project, or in general, you just want to build things that people will use, I think you should be spending a good amount of your time learning about design and applying that to your work. So let's say, for example, you're building a podcast app. You want users of your app to be able to listen to and play podcasts. So one of the things that you can and should be doing is thinking about all the other apps where you've seen audio players before. What does a great audio player look like? What does a bad one look like? Ask why a few times and pick that thing apart a little bit. How did the player get designed and why is it that way? For things that you don't like, is it a flaw of the platform? Is it a flaw of the design language? Maybe it's a feature that straight up just doesn't work, or perhaps it wasn't researched, or maybe it's just not meant for you. And for features that you do like, what sets them apart from other audio player apps? What makes them unique or better? This process of reflection is something you'll get better at repeating as you experience outliers in the apps that you use. Take note of really great and really frustrating experiences that you have with software and hardware and services and heck, other human interactions, and try to understand why they are meaningful to you. And truly, one of the hard things is you should do your best to put words to it and be as objective and descriptive as you can. What I'm also saying here is that you can't just say it's bad because it's bad. That's not a good answer. You need to be able to articulate why it's bad and what you would do to make it better. Similarly, saying I just like it isn't enough. Bonus points if you start to learn to separate your preferences from good design. They're not always the same thing. What you're doing here is building a mental reference library of design patterns and ideas that you can draw from when you're creating something new. The broader that library is, the more things you have to refer to, and the better shot you have of building something that is similarly good. It also gives you a better vocabulary for talking about it. So when you say, I really like the login flow that I just used, you can articulate why you like it and what components of it are really good. It's a skill you can develop and a skill that will make you much better at your craft. And if I can get on my pedestal for a second here, one of the things that comes up a lot, whether people realize it or not, is you'll hear people talking in absolutes. You'll hear people saying things like, iOS is never good or Android is bad. I think that's often a sign that the people you're hearing from aren't doing this part of the work and being reflective. This is one of the reasons that I switch phone OSs fairly regularly. I think I've switched between iOS and Android 4 times in the last 10 years, because it's important to understand what each side is doing well and to become familiar with it. So coming back to it, the more you can develop your tastes, the more you can appreciate what's possible in your creative path of choice. It is good to get the reps in and it's good to practice, but I also think that developing your tastes and having a much broader perspective for what's out there and is available gives you more to build from. If your ability to create something will never outpace your tastes, you may as well try and have as crazy good tastes as possible. That should be a part of the repertoire you're trying to build. The more you can practice your craft repeatedly, the more you get your reps in, the bigger and more efficient you will be at trying to get to what your tastes are. And when it comes to software, if you reflect more on your experiences with software and try to understand the things that you like or dislike and why, you will start to build this mental reference library of design patterns and ideas that you can draw from when you're creating something new. There's actually a tool that I really like for this called Mobbin. Mobbin is truly just a collection of screenshots of app interfaces. They're searchable by feature type, by workflow type, by OS, and more. What it does is it lets you look at a broad array of popular software to see how they do things. So you might look at a dozen different login screens on iOS across a bunch of different apps and see what they have in common or differently. You'll see how they portray their brand or how they create interaction or maybe how they create loyalty. It's a fantastic tool to have in your quiver, especially if you're trying to build something that you're not super familiar with. So let's bring it all the way back around to our friend Ira Glass. He's definitely right. We will never be able to build something that's as kick-ass as our tastes are. I think that's a feature more than a bug, especially for people who are willing to do the work, to get the reps in, to build their tastes, and to build out their reference library. So if you're feeling like you're not where you want to be, or you're not as good as you want to be, or you're not as good as you think you should be, whatever it is, remember, it's a process. Go get your reps in, and while you're at it, go find people who are doing the thing that you want to do really well, and go learn from them. Hey friends, I'm Mike Bifulco, and this is Tiny Improvements. If you enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy my newsletter, which goes by the same name. I send it out just about weekly, and what I write about is building software from my experience as now a 3-time startup founder and having worked at companies like Google and Stripe and Microsoft in the past. I try and share my perspective, the things that I've learned, the mistakes that I've made. One of the things I feel pretty strongly about is that I've been pretty lucky in my career, and so I want to give back and give away as much as I can about the things that I know and the things that I've learned. If I can help 1 or 2 people with each one of these videos or newsletters, so much the better. So if that sounds interesting to you, there'll be a link below. Go check it out, let me know what you think. Until next time, my name is Mike Bifulco. This is Tiny Improvements. Be excellent to each other.